Hey, what's going on everybody? In today's episode, we are taking out the OEM M3 seats and replacing them with some super sweet OMP seats. Now, the seats in the M3, they're not really bad. I don't really have much of a problem with them, but I do want something that A, looks a little bit nicer, and B, is gonna hold me in a little bit better, more of a sporty feel. So let's go ahead and yank out these OEM seats and get in these new seats. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is remove the driver's seat. Now there are, on each seat actually, there are 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can see one of them right there. Don't unplug your battery yet because you're going to actually need to move the seat back and forth to gain access to these bolts. So let's go ahead and loosen these 4 bolts real quick. Okay, so we got all the seat bolts off. Now, before you start trying to take the seat out of the car, just know that there is a wiring harness on the bottom, and you'll want to take that out before you start removing the seat. Otherwise, you might rip something. This yellow cable connection, all you gotta do, pop this black bit up. There you go, like that. And it comes right out. Okay, so here's all the stuff that we took off the OEM seat, so you can see it a little bit better. This is the seatbelt sensor. That'll go into this yellow connector. It's also connected to another harness that plugs into this sensor right here. You're not gonna be able to fish this out of the seat because like this thing is a little bit too big. It won't fit through any slots or holes. So what I found the best way to do is to unplug the sensor here, and then you'll be able to wiggle it throughout. Also, what's different on the passenger side over the driver's side is the passenger sensor. So make sure to take that out as well, and it also plugs into this yellow connector. On the back, it's like a little twisty thing, so when you have it on the seat, all you do is just kind of like twist it and it'll come right out. Also, there's a connector right here. Go ahead and unplug that, and this is where we're going to put our little like resistor to trick this sensor into thinking either no one's there or someone's there. And either way, it basically means that the airbag light doesn't turn on for us. Okay, so here is our bracket and seat slider setup. I'm going with Sparco's, even though my seats are OMP. I originally had another set of sliders and brackets by Corbeau, but I found out the hard way that Corbeau's seat brackets are made specifically for their seats because it was a lot narrower than the mounting holes on my OMP seats. So if you're doing something similar, just double check. It never hurts to double check, especially if you're crossing brands, to make sure that your brackets and sliders will actually fit with your seat. But anyway, you can see I have the seat belt mounted up here. I actually had to use a new bolt setup. I believe it's an M10. I got 30 mil with a flange and a washer on the other end because the OEM one, pretty short. I mean, you could reuse this, but just know that you're probably gonna have like maybe a few threads to be able to get it on. It's just a tad bit too short, but I went with this. I believe the length is 30 millimeters long, so plenty of thread, nice and sturdy, should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get our sliders mounted onto our seats, and then we'll mount that onto our brackets. Okay, so we got the rails mounted onto the seat. You could see that I had to kind of like lower the rails or move the rails up and down to be able to get to the bolts that bolt them up to the seat. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and then get the rails mounted to the seat brackets. And then once it's mounted up the seat brackets, it can go into the car. we got our rails mounted to our seat and our rails mounted also to the seat bracket. I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and take a quick test, make sure everything kind of feels good, everything kind of slides all right. Work. Oh yeah. Okay, so we got everything plugged back in. We got our seatbelt buckle sensors on the other side put in, and we attached it again back to the CL connector, which again connects to the car. Just kind of tidied up the wires a little bit so they don't get pinched, but there's plenty of space underneath. And then I don't know if you can see in the back right there, we also have our resistor for our passenger airbag. And I went ahead and just zip tied the sensor to the seat rail. And yeah, everything looks good so far. So we're going to go ahead and just finish bolting up the seat. Okay, pain point number one is going to be, at least for the driver's side, but the nut closest to the firewall or for the closest to the transmission, that is going to be a little bit of a tight spot. You can't get a ratcheting wrench in there. At least I didn't have the tool, so I had to use just a standard wrench. All right, so next pain point is going to be this bolt right here. Again, it's going to be the one closest to the transmission side. I haven't done the passenger side yet, so I'd imagine it's probably going to be the same, but basically the OEM bolt, it ain't going to fit in there because you're going to have to sandwich it obviously between the bracket here. So I got another bolt. It is slightly shorter. Make sure to check out the description. I'll put all the extra nuts and bolts that I had to get just so that you don't have to make 8 trips to Home Depot like I did. Yes. Whew. Oh yeah. This feels so much more comfortable. Looks good too. Yeah, I'm really digging it. I'm so glad that these are finally in. And yeah, really curious to see how they do in, like, you know, a really spirited setting and on the track and everything like that. You know, got the harnesses hooked up here too. So yeah, we're all good to go. The seats are in. See you on the next one.